Standard Time. It's LinkedIn Live. I am so happy and proud to be here today with so many wonderful people in the audience, and also my wonderful two co-hosts, and the hat has just showed up. So
Yep.
we got
Okay.
the triple crown now. With that said, our word of the day is will. Chat's open. We depend and rely on you to direct us, and we're here to give you as many valuable takeaways as we can. Deb Curtis is with us. Rita Wirtz, who you know, Rita's here has been just consistently over the last few weeks and so, and contributes so much to everybody. And with that said, chat's open. And I'll turn it over to Rita. Rita can say hello and share a little bit of what she thinks will is. And then we'll turn it over to Deb so Deb can introduce herself. Rita?
Wow. Good morning, everybody. I hope that it's a great time wherever you are, maybe morning, afternoon, or night. It's always a pleasure to be here with Donald Cohn and to have Deb Curtis join us today. Not proud. Okay, so just so you know, I have on another one of my mother's hats, and it's pretty unique. And when I think of my mother, it helps me think of will or willpower. And we have a choice. We can either have willpower or won't power. So to start off, I'm going to kick it right over to Deb, who's joining us for the first time. But first time's a charm, and we're just loving to have you here today. So for will, I think of my mother, and I also think of not a million, but many instances in my life where the only thing that got me through, whether it was a health issue or a loss issue, it was about will, that will to go on and make a difference as a leader. Deb, what do you think about will?
Oh, well, first and foremost, thank you, Rita. Thank you, Donald. I am the new kid on the block with the Hour of Empower. So I didn't wear a hat, but I'm wearing my trendy either hair bands or if anybody knows Rosie the Riveter from back in the day, she was huge back in the day for women empowerment. So I think one of these days Donald has to wear a headband like this. Yeah.
I'm daring.
But anyways, the word will on Wednesday, I thought about it. Of course, when I went to bed last night, I think about a lot of what's going to happen the next day. And I think of the power of choice, being will. And I put up a post on social media about the power of choice, especially when you're a business owner. And, you know, we can be a business owner at home, or we could be a leader at corporate. I mean, we're all a leader, an owner of a family, an owner of a business, and we have choices to make. So sometimes challenges will come our way, and it's our will is how do we react to those choices. That's my thought, and plenty more in the hour. So I'll stop there. And I see so many people in the feed. Oh my goodness, this is fun.
This is unbelievable. It's like Niagara Falls.
Leslie. We got our Leslie.
I'll share who's in the audience. My first take, though, on will is when I closed my eyes and thought about it, I came up with goodwill. You know, is how do you create not only will is what you can do for yourself to will yourself forward, to keep yourself in the game. But goodwill is what you forward to others through your will and the goodness you have in yourself. So, you know, the beauty of these words is you always start out with a root word. And you always start out with the conventional way you have always looked at it and used it. And then when you put it in context, when you relate it to tone, facial expression, delivery, that word creates all kinds of new meanings and gives other people ways to maybe redefine other words and definitions in their life to expand and open up to other people's perspectives. So with that said, Leslie's here. Leslie was here yesterday with Rita. Great show. We're starting to pair really, really great people up with really, really great other people. We've got a LinkedIn user. We've also got Cerebus. I have Kumar. Haven't seen you. Welcome. Wilson's another person who haven't seen before. Good morning to you. another new person, Tanega. Thank you for coming. Leslie has something to say. Willpower, the opposite of procrastination. Leslie, who's going to be here Saturday again and is really just great. You know, this is such an opportunity to reach out to some of these people, see who they are. If they're aligned, make connections. I mean, make this hour count. If it's going to be empowering, we've got to empower ourselves to do more for each other and for ourselves. Leslie says, willpower, extreme focus.
Yes.
Kelly's here. Kelly's just great. She'll be here tomorrow with Brett. And Brett's been really strong, and especially on the financial end. Thank you, Kelly. I was on Kelly's awesome journey, and that was just amazing. Had a great crowd, was really heartfelt. So I really, really am proud of Kelly and Christy for what they're putting together there. And, rising tide does lift all boats, right? Helping each other get better makes all of us better. Willpower commanded by the conscious mind. Leslie's really good with some of these. Leslie, okay. Ashif is here. Thank you, Ashif. Dean is here. Thank you, Dean.
Hi, Dean.
I'm trying to find some meaty comments. Oh, Matt's here. Kudos to Matt. Thank you so much. Matt's a great guy. He's got some unbelievable visions and ideas. So very progressive in that way. Kelly says, welcome to all the newbies. We're grateful to have you here. Well, with that, I'll turn it back to Rita. I mean, will is just a good starting point. Anytime you have a word with 4 letters, it lends itself to adding to it.
I think that in our life, when we hit that fork in the road where we have to decide, am I going to go this way or this way? We know that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. But sometimes when we get stuck at that point right here, the power is right in the middle, right here where it connects. And as we're thinking about our next move, should I go that way? Should I go this way? Should I stop? Should I pause? Should I back up? Should I go faster? When we feel stuck, when we come to that edge where you're like looking off the cliff, it's like when you say, well, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But then you get to the bridge. Are you going to do this? Are you going to do this? And when you're not sure, will always carries us through. Always. There's a will that it's like we call forth out of our whole being, maybe. And we make that giant leap of faith. It always makes me think of Indiana Jones, just that giant leap of faith. And to be a disruptor, to be a maverick, or I've been a badass my whole life. I'm a troublemaker because I see things the way they should and could be. And I'm an empath as well. So I feel how it's supposed to go. But even then, when I'm not sure, I'm starting to doubt myself, or our word confidence yesterday, it's always will that puts me over the top, and I'll jump and I'll make that next leap, and I'll get on the other side. Always.
Love that.
Deb?
Oh, geez. Rita, that was really very insightful. And I'm going to just add to that I will, like you said, is action. And it is our capacity to change. And I think to myself over the years of my life, and I bet you some of the listeners and the people in the chat here would agree, I wish there were many times in my past I had more will to make the changes that were needed. Right? And it still happens. So will is the capacity to change, and it's action. And we all need to take action to get to that change. So that would be my thought in this round, that let's not just wish anymore that we have the will to change. Let's all just take action, LinkedIn family, and be the change and make it happen. I mean, seriously, even myself, no more excuses, only solutions, the power to create solutions. And that's will.
I got to tell you, Rita and Deb especially, you are perfectly aligned to do a show like this because of how you can relate to it. What I love about the word show in a way is it allows people to be in the moment and spontaneously have to address something they weren't expecting,
Mhm.
right? And if it's already there, it's waiting to come out. And when I look coming back to will, and that's another thing good about having a word is it makes you refocus. It's all about
Right.
commitment, right? How, I've got the will to do this for how long, and what are you willing to do? And sometimes if you have a long-term vision, you get through the short-term bumps. And a lot of times if you have a easier commitment, you get through the day.
Yes.
And sometimes you got to use the long-term commitment to say, "Hey, there's that saying, you burn your boats because there's no retreat now. Either you win or you perish," was the phrase. So in that sense, once you determine there's no going back, I mean, it's like so 100% that way
Mhm.
that every time you think of going back, that commitment says, "No, you're not."
Yeah, that's right. That's
At
right.
the other side, I've been doing this show every day for I don't know how long, 11 months, 7 days a week, but I could only do it if the only commitment I had is to put the best show I can on tomorrow or
Uh-huh.
today,
Right.
right? And then let today determine what the next commitment is, because you should always have a choice. Either
Mhm.
pause, pivot, back
Mhm.
up. But it's all still going to get you where you need to go, but it's not going to be a straight line. But the idea is keep moving. Sometimes you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, not 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, but you're behind a step. That's all it says.
Mhm.
So let me just cover the bases here. We've got some bigger comments. I mean, this is just unbelievable.
Matt's calling willpower. There's no giving up, only powering on. I'm there.
Okay, let me see. Here's another
Well,
Matt. Okay, the miracle. Uh,
Yeah.
will is a verb. It's an action word, Roxanne. So true. Here's another one says, yes, allowing to make the change, Deb, having the will.
that's
Mhm.
right.
All I'm actually going to be talking about a LinkedIn audio event, which is the first time I've ever done one. We're planning Friday, and it's all about LinkedIn tips. There's so many people, honestly, that can raise their mindset, their attitude, their commitment. But if you don't know best practices, you're
Mhm.
really leaving too much behind that you're not aware of. And then I think Deb made such a wonderful point is putting things into action. You have power here.
Yeah.
How many articles are you sharing that you read
Mhm.
that you like? How many comments are you putting in there?
Right.
So if you combine, everybody here together has so much more power than individually.
Mhm.
And the knowledge share is so tremendous. So anyways, Paul says, grateful to be here. I'm intrigued to see what the topic will goes. Me too. I can't wait to start the show. Impossible is for the unwilling, John Keats. Leslie comes back with my network, my algorithm. Here's Matt's comment: willpower, there is no giving up on. If not this, if not now, when? If
That's
not us, who?
Yeah.
Right? And use what you have when you have it. Something better comes along, use that with it. Let's see. Okay, here's one from, I think of will in a legal term. Oh, that's true. Once it's put
I
in
do
as
too.
law, as in your last will and testament, now put that into your daily living. In a way, you are writing your legacy every day of the year, right? And what do you want your will to show? What are you leaving everybody when you right? What did you provide? What did you contribute? I think that's a quality way. All through life, we have changed needing will. Will I finally get to ride my bike myself today?
Right.
Will I pass that test? After an injury, will I make a few steps today?
That's right.
Committing to giving me the chance, choice, and try your best. So true, Linda. Leslie comes back with, hello, welcome. I have to go to a meeting. Well, good luck, and we'll see you Saturday for sure. A sheaf, a true will is a promise to keep. I get strength through asking, is this God's will? I know I'm in line with this, gives me the will to move forward no matter what. And, faith is so important to give you extra will, right? One person by themselves can be strong, but with becoming and part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have so much wealth, and if you ask them why they're doing what they're doing, it's because now it's all going to causes, right? And they can't let their people down who they really believe in and support. So that also gives you more longevity to giving if you can create the will to do it. Knowing, I think what Linda comes back with, every day wait it to be God's plan. Faith, like I say, is so valuable. You must put wisdom and strong feelings into labor. Jim Rohn, that's
right.
Your will. Yeah, activity completes everything prior to that. Your thought, your commitment. If you don't do anything with it, it's just a well-prepared, unused plan. Common will, the desire of the group or community to do something for the benefit of the many.
There we go, man.
Miracles happen that way. Oh, here's a big one from Paul. Will is a power word in terms of language shift. I see many people saying, I could, should, or would, could you help me, instead of using will. If you're willing to help yourself first, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you if you ask. So smart, so right. There's a saying, be known before you're needed,
Right.
and get known before you need something, and that's how you'll know who will help you. And that's how people will know you're worthy of being helped, by who you are and what you do. The universe is our partner. Leslie goes on, fear will outweigh will. Choose intentionally.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about that for a second.
Okay, let's talk about that. It's your turn, Rita.
Well, no, I was going to Debbie on that one. Deb.
Oh, okay, Deb.
The fear will outweigh will. Yes. True that. So choose intentionally, as Leslie says, because that is so true. Fear, we just have to overcome it. And that's the will in us to overcome the fear. And sometimes the fear is the unknown.
Yes.
And we might not know when we're going through it, but we figure it out and get better for the next time. I think of the NBA teams in the finals. I live in Wisconsin, and the Milwaukee Bucks were the #1 NBA team this season in the regular season. And that was a lot of games. And they went to the playoffs and they got knocked out in round 1 by the 8th seed Miami Heat, who went to the finals, mind you. And Giannis, the Greek freak, everybody might have heard of him, real tall man on our team, just an inspiring fella. And he spoke on a news segment because the news media after the game were just like, how do you feel that you lost? He's like, we didn't lose. He goes, it just wasn't our time. We didn't lose. It just wasn't our time. So he said, so he has the will. What did he do the next day? He was back on the court practicing for the next season because his will outweighed the fear of losing. And he don't look at losing. He don't look at losing as a loss. It's an opportunity and a time to have more will to go back to that court and practice some more with the team. So when it's their time, they're ready and they'll win. Will is powerful. It's just so powerful. And our choices, I go back to my earlier discussion about our choices. How did the Greek freak look at his loss? His choice was to look at it as a win and have the willpower to get better for the next time.
Yes. Wow. Tagging on that. I think that there's a lot of times we're watching a game and we're wondering, how'd that guy miss that free throw? Or they're at the 1 yard line and they fumbled it. Now, these kinds of things are challenging to understand.
Mhm.
But in many cases, you'll watch a team coming from behind, and it's just sheer will of collective spirit that they can do it.
Mhm.
So, just a comment on change while we're talking about will, because I've always felt that it's only a baby that likes change, you know?
Yeah.
And so if we're looking at real growth and real growth and transformation, we have to be able to get to that point that we've talked about where we're going to go this way or this way or this way or this way or this way. And again, no matter what, when all is said and done, when you call forth every bit of your inner strength, that's will in action. Will can be a verb. It can certainly be a noun. It could be an adjective. It could be any way we want to describe a situation that we ourselves are in, or our
Mhm.
friends, our neighbors, our relatives. But when all is said and done, and someone is nearing a point in their life where there's a change that has to happen, and you have no way around it,
Mhm.
that's when you go sheer will.
Yeah. Right on.
You know, and that's why sometimes you got to jump off a cliff and grow wings before
Right.
you hit the ground.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, you know, at a certain point, there's also your brain will and your heart will,
Yes.
you know, and your brain will always become more logical and maybe even more self beneficial. Where at a certain point, your heart just tells you what the right thing is, not what you can get away with, not even what you deserve,
Mhm.
right? But just what you should do, not only because it's good for the person who's going to get that benefit, but for you being able to have the enjoyment of giving something that you can to someone who doesn't have it and who could do better or change for the better because of it. Because
Yes.
we are the beginning of every cycle we launch, right? And you know, if you look at fear, and I know that's a key word for a lot of people,
Right.
who created that fear? When you're afraid of something and 10 minutes later you get distracted by something else and you don't think about that fear, what did it mean? You brought it
Mhm.
there, you took it away, you'll bring it back. I mean, you got to look at the marquee on your movie theater and what are you playing these days? And what does fear get you anyways? And once you identify it, you know, I look at fear in the eye and it blinks, right? Because the day is going to go, the event is going to happen with or
That's
without,
right. Right.
right? So do you want to
Mhm.
be an active player? Do you want to have the will to show up? And you know, I think that's the key. It's not winning, it's playing. And to Deb's point with the basketball story, and by the way, the Nuggets did beat the Miami Heat at the end.
Yes, they did.
We had a bigger, better guy, I guess. But anyways, with that said, you create the story you're going to live, that
Mm.
you're going to
Mhm.
project. And the
Right.
will to do things, when you do choose the will, makes your will muscle stronger and you tend to use it more. And then after a while, you have confidence instead of fear in your will. How many times you say, hey,
Mhm.
no problem, I can take care of this. And you know 100%, you know, if someone says, can you lift that over here today? It's like, in my mind, I can handle that. So anyways, before we get too deep, let's hit the wonderful audience. Great words, Rita. See, nothing like third-party validation. Leslie's always coming up with wonderful comments. Wishing requires action, as you say, Deb. Let's get something here. Paul, good morning. We talked about that. Let me see. Okay.
I'd like to make a quick point on that, Don, what Paul said. I don't feel that people are learning from us. I believe that we are learning together.
Yeah.
We talked about this, Deb, before you joined us today.
Uh-huh.
I kept thinking about it, and I said to Don, what really this is a community of belonging. Donald has created this safe space where people come and we share sometimes really personal things that we may not tell other people, but we feel safe here with Don and then whoever's with us that day. So I'd like to know, like from people who are participating in the audience, about an opportunity that you had that wasn't going quite the way you thought it should, but you willed. I'm willing you to do this. I'm willing you to finish it. And that's the unfinished novel. That's the ripping apart your house to rearrange it, and then you don't. Marie Kondo can't come. But at what point does will take over when you yourself need this almost to be almost an external as much as an internal thing coming at you?
Mm-hmm.
See, Paul.
I'm just reading his here. Paul says, my latest story about Will takes me back to my 12-hour walk. I was done that last hour. It was raining and my feet were done. And I walked my way back home, finished with 122,000 steps and 55 and a half miles. That's Will. That experience proved to me that mind over matter is real. Okay, my feet hurt just reading that. But congratulations, Paul. That's Will. Yes.
Isn't that? That's what we're talking about.
Can I add to that?
Okay.
Paul, I put on my bucket list, and don't ask me why, to run a marathon. And I am not a body built for running, but I trained on my own to run a marathon. And in 2013, I ran a marathon all by myself. It was in a suburb of Milwaukee, and it was very crowded, and there were elite people and intermediary and beginners. I didn't even know. They're like, you got to line up by the start. You start wherever you're going to, what your average mile is. I'm like, just put me in the back. Just put me in the back. But let me tell you, Paul, I get it. I finished that marathon. That
was a win.
It was a win, and it was within the 6 hours, so I could get my medal that I completed it. Mm-hmm. And that willpower, let's just say, by about, I don't know, mile 20 or so, my feet were bleeding, my toes were in bad shape, but I had to keep going. I wasn't going to stop. And here's the message to everyone that's listening and everyone that's so grateful here in the comments. I could not have done that marathon on my own, but I did. But you know what the difference was? There were people I didn't know in the area with me who also were struggling. But when we decided to just group together, not even knowing who we were, we helped each other rise above to keep going. And so there was a group of like 5 of us, and we're like, okay, we're going to get to that tree on the far right. Everybody see it? And we're like, yep, we see it. Let's go. And then we would just keep running. And then we didn't even know our names. But by the end of that marathon, because of our will to join together as complete strangers in this marathon, we crossed that finish line. And I remember they always say that the final 2 miles, you get a second wind. We all had that second wind, Rita and Donald and everyone that's listening. And we like sprinted to finish the marathon. And that was community pulling together with will, so we all could finish. I just had to share that. So Paul, thank you.
That's such an inspiring story, Deb. And that's what this show is about, is again starting with what did you think, and then what does this make you feel? And when you can bring feelings and events and people back to life, who did so much, or those were the happiest moments, that's what you should be playing on your marquee, because you have so many of them. You could fill a whole day with the birthdays you've had and the trips you've taken and the meals you've eaten. And if you just said, I want to just play back one of everything in every category, and go by relatives or friends or whatever, you could have a whole day. And maybe that's one of the answers to getting will, is taking a day off and celebrating yourself for being you. Get off of the track for, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you get to a base camp and the journey is like enjoying every part of it, not struggling and one day getting to the top and enjoying it for a few minutes and coming back for your next struggle, and I think that's so important. Is you're right. Community gives you will.
Right.
How many people, and that happens with faith too, say, I'm going to will this for you. I'm going to pray for you. You know what I mean? if someone's sick or someone's going through something, and that person who hears that, their will gets strengthened by your will because they're not alone, to your point. And
Yes.
if everybody starts sending that energy, and they say faith is the belief in the invisible,
Right.
And when you can believe in things you don't see yet and the future you can't see, but
The future is now.
you can help create,
Yeah.
something to responsibility.
Mhm.
Let's see, Leslie has some comments. Paul Deutsch, mind over matter. Yes, conscious mind over matter. Subconscious mind has no control over matter. I think that's when we're talking about will, we're talking about alignment, right?
Yes.
The reason why you need more will is it's not working, it's not fitting, right? So it means you need to do more, you need to come up with something, or not always be you. Maybe the hole turned square when the peg didn't, right? And now it's a time for reflection. Will shouldn't be blind will.
No.
It shouldn't be just charging forward no matter what. It should be measured will. And I think to the point of energy, you have only so much will. And a certain day you say, I'm just out of willpower right now. I mean, I'm just drained and exhausted, but it can fill itself up.
Yeah.
So be easy on yourself when things are hard on you.
Yeah.
Well, give grace, yes.
Or lean on others, right? Like I did. I had to lean on others to help motivate me to go. They didn't want to leave me behind. They're like, we're not going to leave you behind. And I'm like, just go. I'm tired. They're like, oh no, you're coming with. And then they got pooped out. And I'm like, okay. Oh, now you're out of willpower. So you're coming with me now. That's how it was like the last 8 miles of that marathon. So it's great conversation.
I'm going to piggyback on that, Deb. I was thinking when you said before about you guys getting together, a lot of times my will might be really strong and that's great, but I can't impose my will on others. But when we do come together, that juncture in the road, we're all on different journeys, but for that moment when we come together, the will of the group is what you were describing. And it's always been that way, that the will is what does it. As a new principal, when I walked into the school and saw what a mess it was at that time, I knew it was going to take more than smarts to do it. Parts of the time to bring about and turn that school around, we used sheer will of the whole group. And I think that that's a really insightful comment, because we tend to think that we're alone. And especially after lockdown, and we reflected on that time by ourselves, there were days to get through. I know it was just sheer will that we knew that tomorrow would be a better day. And yet today I found that silver lining, because I have the will to go on. I have the will to get better. I have the will to be the best that I can be. But I know that when I'm sharing with someone else, like being a group of 3, a trifecta today, our will together with the will of the participants, that's just a profound thing. It's bigger than us. It's way bigger than us.
Energy, big energy.
Yes. And Leslie Flowers would say it's the vibrations.
Yeah.
Well, I think that.
Don't want to talk for you, Leslie. You can chime in if you're still here.
Yeah, Leslie is very strong in contributing, and she's a great lady. I would reach out and connect with her too. And I think to really understand what the dynamics of what we're doing here on a daily basis, and especially today, if it was just the 3 of us doing this conversation, we are getting so much help and support ourselves through the interchange, because it's thought-provoking. What Deb says makes me think. What Rita says makes me think. What the audience shares makes me think. And all of a sudden I'm rethinking or thinking about things I hadn't thought about that I should. And now, I think life is a mosaic, right? Every day you can add a jewel to your bigger picture. That's what keeps your will going, is you're impressed with what you're into. You could be the worst at something you enjoy the most. And you could be
my tango classes. Yes,
Hate the
will.
most, right? I mean, you could be a pro at something and say, I'm so tired of that. You know, I don't want to do it anymore, even though I'm great at it. But I love doing something. And I think that lends itself to, are you a beginner
Yeah.
or an leader? You know, can you wait to get out of what you're doing because you've got something more exciting waiting for you? And the will doesn't have to be a bullseye on one target. The will could be your life, the quality of your life. You will yourself to have a balanced life, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, you're going to get scrambled eggs once in a while. You know, and if you lay your bets all the way around, that gives you the chance to say, hey, that area is getting too hot to handle today.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to move on to our walk in the park, and then we're going to take care of you with a really nice lunch. I mean, if you were the concierge of you and said, what can I do to serve you every day a little bit better, make you a little happier? And you know what happens? Your will transfers to the people around you.
That's right.
You're modeling that. I mean, how many dads or moms go to work and their kids are so proud of how they have to get up early in the morning and work so hard and come home and do this, versus someone just laying around doing nothing, you know? And that's the key. If you want a better world, become a better you, and then share it with the person next to you. And even if it's just a food for thought, a seed for maybe an idea that might come along during a conversation like this that unearthed it.
Yes.
You know, that's where life changes for the better. Another thing I think that Deb's point was so important about the community of runners. You don't have to be strong all the time if you're around a lot of strong people. Right? If you're a bunch of heavyweights around you and something needs to be lifted, you always know that they can do it, and that's what they love doing. And that's why you compliment yourself with the strengths you desire or don't have yet, and borrow them from the people who have more than enough, and in turn return it with at minimum gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, organizational culture is such that we know that leadership that is coming totally top down. Well, here's the leader's vision, and then here we are.
Yeah.
I've always said that I really don't believe that people buy in, generally speaking. I think unless people see a need for a change and how they're going to get the information and make it happen, then they're not going to buy into anything. I also have an issue with the word failure. I believe there's only feedback. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
There you go.
I am terribly bothered by people who say that we have to teach people how to fail or to fail forward. Why do I need to teach them how to fail? I need to teach them how to find the will at that last minute to pull it off.
That's right.
Now, I worked on a chapter that I was writing for a friend of mine for her book. And every day I'd look at it and I'd put it down, and I read a little bit. I put it down. I'd write a bit. So about a month of this. And I finally said, I need to finish it today. I have the will today. So I took 5 pages and I ripped it down to the title and the first paragraph, and I started all over. I think I told Don I was writing. It was a writing day. Well, the writing day went about 10 hours, and it was just about there. But as I got really, really tired, I said, I don't know. I either need a shot of caffeine or a margarita or something to finish this. But what happened? I took a deep breath. I meditated for a few minutes. And I asked the higher power to help, because this was something very important for somebody that needed it badly. And I willed myself to finish it. And when it was done, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever written, because I willed it for this person. So sometimes there's things that we don't think that we can do. And it might be to be with someone that's ill, or someone who's having a challenge in their life, which is probably most of us. I don't think anybody goes through life unscathed. And we have the will. As a cancer survivor, there were times that I did not think that I was going to make it. And I willed myself. One night in particular, I felt myself lifting off the bed. And I swear I saw my late husband say, come on, come on.
Wow.
But I willed myself to get out of that bed and to get better and to recover. And it happened to me again when I happened to get COVID, and I got so ill. After a couple of months. I'm like, I have to will myself. I have a choice now. I can go or I can stay. but I believe I have 9 lives, that I will myself, and that I have such a strong empathic nature that I don't suck the energy from other people, but I feel the energy going back and forth between us like that circuit. And it's a circuit of love and it's a circuit of will. So when we're with someone who's going through a really challenging time, sometimes it's good just to be there with them, and they'll find their own sense of will, because we can't put it on anyone else. I can't give you my will. I can model my intense will that I don't ever give up. So what can we do as a collective group to encourage one another when the going gets tough to jump over that last hurdle? It's not that I'm at the whole ladder and making that leap, but those incremental steps really add up. And if I have to go to my will as a last resort on every one of those steps, I'm going to do it.
Well, that's so profound, and that's so generous of you to share with so many, because
this group is different. We talk truth. We talk from our heart. I'm no better than anybody else.
No, but that makes us equal to each other, because everybody is dealing with something. And if it's not this, it's that. And if it's not now, it will be. So the question is not how many times you fall down, but how fast you get back up. And not to judge. If you feel like at a loss or disappointment, why not take the other side for yourself?
That's right.
And bring meditation or comfort. Or you know what I found in my worst, deepest, darkest times, the more people I could get around, the better and the faster I got out of it.
That's right.
Or I sat in bed or by myself.
Yeah.
And you get this crazy loop that tells you all these things that just reinforce it, and you can't escape it. So I go to Toastmasters meetings, people I didn't even know, and everybody was so open. I go to different personal development seminars and groups with people I didn't even know. And you know what? Just by wondering, who is this person? What's their name? Can I remember this? It took me out of that funk. And that's where you have to be, is where people are that you need to be with. You're doing yourself a favor, and you're doing everybody else around you a favor, because they know what you're going through and they're feeling it. They're reflecting. So, that's why doing something for people or a cause that's bigger than yourself makes you want to keep going, because you say to yourself, I am needed here. I'm wanted. People look forward to seeing me every day, and it's my community. And that's then what can happen is you'll find something better to replace something that you lost, something you're not going to get back, something that's broken. And you just use it as a marketplace to say, I'll take a little bit of what you got there and a little bit there, like a farmer's market, right? And you got a basket full of good stuff that you didn't have before. So let's get some more of these wonderful individuals in the audience. It's so great to be sharing this with so many. And, if it's good for you, it's good for people like you. Share it with people who you think could use a show just to listen to it. We're not selling anything or anything else, but that's the whole reason to have a network and to post, because people, again, do it all by themselves. And they think, what do I have to post? I can't come up with nothing, so I won't post. Well, what have you been reading today? Share that. It takes a button, comment. So many people get so few quality compliments they deserve.
That's right.
That when they get anything from anybody, it becomes a highlight for them in their post, in their day, and the more you give, I believe in the law of circulation. Leslie says, marathon mastermind of 5.
That's right.
Christine, to reiterate, it's more about being willing than willpower. I've accomplished more when I examine my deep-rooted ideas and behavior than I ever did with willpower. When you understand why you're getting in your own way instead of white knuckling. So many people are afraid of falling out a window until they find out they're only on the first floor. And all this stuff that that they thought would happen never happened. They say 90% of what you worry about never happens. The 10% that does happen, you had no way of anticipating or planning for. So why build this one day something that's never going to be. I always will myself to do things. So true, Paul. When I had my businesses, when I left at the end of the day, you could eat off of my desk. I had nothing going into tomorrow. But I take stuff you couldn't do to make it harder for tomorrow, and nothing was going to change what I was looking at. And it is that procrastination,
Yeah.
that takes things longer and extends it. Anyways, the mindset shift that I've adopted, though, is in the beginning, it was about proving people wrong, and it's negative. So now I try to prove myself right. You're the only person you got control over. Okay, Mohammed's here. Thank you for being here. Linda says, great share, Deb, have helped at events and love seeing people come together.
Yes.
Cindy says, accountability can give you will as well. Leslie,
that's interesting.
Question for you. Is unconditional love the soul blind will? Well, that's pretty deep. We'll get back to any one of these.
I have to think about that. Yeah.
Christine, you're right. Being willing to go deep is powerful. Being vulnerable takes a different kind of strength. Dean comes back with willpower is not sustainable. It only works in spurts, which is why people gain more after losing weight. Being willing is much easier and effective in the long term. Linda says, my favorite will story is went with my future husband, met his grandson, and mom wasn't able to be there for him. And I prayed for him to have better life ahead. Years later, we adopted another daughter, baby girl. Will's mom's asked us to adopt. I mean, and that's so many wonderful stories. Here's one. That's a great question, Leslie Flowers. I guess that's why every crazy idea I have my aunt always tell me, I believe you'll do it. That and my track record of doing what I say I'm going to do. Well, you do have to count yourself at the end of the day. You shouldn't be fooling yourself, because then you'll never be true to anybody. I always love how you explain my answers, Dr. Leslie Flowers. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me. Well, you two should do a show. It seems like we have to get together, Paul, and get you with Leslie. Hello, Pam. Ambambola has been great. I saw she was on the Saturday show. She's getting a lot more recognition. I know we're getting so many people from Nigeria because of Ambambola. Today is my brother's birthday. Lots of preparation to give him a good treat when he arrives this evening. Well, congratulations to your brother. I hope you have a wonderful celebration. Leslie comes back with failure is another word for learning, Rita.
I know that.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, we all know what we know after a while. It's a matter of like, okay, just do it. You can. But, I do believe, I'll give you a story. Ann, my wife, came back and she said one of her girlfriends went to Weight Watchers and lost like all this weight.
Right.
We were pushing it at the time. And she said, why don't we go to a meeting? And my first impression was just a bunch of women talking about their weight. And it was. When I got there, I was about the only guy. And I listened to the presentation, and I really liked the presenter. And she was really a veteran of this and a great storyteller. And it wasn't much money. And Ann says, what do you think? I said, well, if you want to do it, I'll do it. I figured out it was all like a numbers game. I lost 42 pounds in 20 weeks, and my wife lost 40 pounds in 21 weeks. But it was only because we did it together. And she was looking at what I was eating, and I was looking at what she was eating. And I would say, dear, we got to stick to this. And we were, in some ways, you were disappointed for someone to point it out, but you were happy because you lived without that extra dessert that night. And, we had to weigh in every week, and you didn't want to go through a whole week. And I think the accountability part of it made you part of that, and the group. Because there were people who would go on cruises and say, what's your success? 5 pounds, and I usually gained 10 on a cruise. So it really helped me. So it was that community, it was the consistency, and it was having like a trainer or coach next to you to kind of
about the collective group we're talking about. I wanted to go back to mindset. I saw it had popped up, and I was going to turn that over to Deb. I just want to start just a little bit. We talk about having a fixed or growth mindset. at one point, I wondered whether it was getting a little overdone because everywhere I turned around, I was just hearing about mindset. But I do think it's extremely important, because if we have a fixed mindset, that we're never going to be able to do it. There's no way. Even will won't get us there then. So the mindset is a really big piece of this. So I'm going to turn that to Deb for a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. And it's interesting because I wanted to bring up a comment that I'm reading with the audience here from Paul. He says, I do want to say, though, in my experience as someone who grew up in the hustle culture and tried to will myself and push through things, sometimes you need to take a step back. So regarding that mindset,
yes,
I agree with Paul, because I grew up in the hustle culture. I'm a Gen Xer, and my daddy always taught me to work hard,
yes,
figure it out, and just work hard, and you'll go places. So I was always in the zone of, I can do it myself. I can do it myself. And even, just recent employer stops over my career, my supervisors would always recognize I was a hard worker, but they always would say, why don't you ask for help? Because I grew up in the hustle culture where you just figured it out yourself.
That's right.
But here's the deal. My message to everyone is, sometimes that didn't serve me well. Oh, I apologize for that. Sometimes that didn't serve me well. And if I would have asked for help, I would have got done some of my projects a little bit faster. So, that mindset, Rita, sometimes we got to tone it down a little bit. Turn the volume down.
That's right.
And
That's
Paul, I would agree with you. We grew up in a hustle culture, and sometimes we have to let it go. And now I'm learning, and you might have mentioned this as well, Donald. I'm learning to ask for help, especially with IT stuff and apps and stuff on the computer, and how does this work? So, yeah. So I'll turn it over to who's next, so my dog doesn't keep barking. Obviously, she has a willpower for someone at the door.
I think we should see the dog.
We'd all be more like dogs. I think we'd all be better.
Yeah, bring the dog.
So, Matt has a good comment here. Okay, need to go, meeting coming up. But he had a better comment above here. Let me see. Here's one from Linda. Yes, when doctor told me he had 2 days to 2 years and had 3 small children needing me, I couldn't digest medications. Inflammation was so bad. I started mustering the will to get back to learning about fuel for our bodies. And that will mustered up without internet in our hands. I received a call that helped me learn and change, but we have to find the will sometimes is the most important word. I will try something new. I will learn to start moving. I will allow me time to be with great people, to share, learn, and gain food for thought. I know as long as our group goes, we'll try to be a part in hearing and participating. And, if we can be a support and a safe place, like Rita says, and a community of belonging, that would put people in situations where now they can create healthier situations where it's not dealing with where they've been or where they are, but now they got a new beginning with new people. And it's like a new play. Choose your role, choose your costume, choose your cast, and enjoy yourself, because I think will is meant to achieve a result of happiness, right? I mean, that should be the ultimate, love and happiness should be the ultimate goals. And is everything you're doing leading towards that or moving away from that? If everything you say is, hey, I'm going to waste a bunch of money on lottery tickets today, winners would differ with me, versus like, I'm going to get a book, or I'm going to go to a movie. I mean, whatever you need, that's what your will should provide.
I have a question, Dawn, while you're still on, and then, excuse me, then back to Deb. I'm sorry, I don't remember who said this, but there was a distinction made between will and willpower. Now, I never thought about that. To me, there's either willpower or won't power. It's pretty much one thing or the other, with a little bit in the middle. But I'm wondering what you and
well, I think maybe if you look at will and willpower, it's one more level of will.
Mhm.
Because you could say, well, how strong of a will do I need to have
Right.
to go to the grocery store? Right? I think I'm pretty comfortable. It's not going to take me mustering up any extra power. But when
Mhm.
you say, well, this is a mountain I got to climb now.
Right.
Well, I got to turn my will into willpower, right? Like a turbocharger that when I need it, it's going to kick in and give me that last sprint of the mile. Because
Yes.
once you believe,
Mhm.
you have the will. And once you start to not believe, you
Mhm.
lose your will.
Yeah.
Because will is based on confidence,
Yes.
attitude, environment, culture, resources. There's so many things that you need to come up with. And that's why the only sure thing is the intangibles that you can gather, right? If
Mhm.
someone says you need $1 million by tomorrow, it's like that, and I won't get into a story, but twice in my life, I had less than a week to come up with big dollars, and I had exhausted every resource and every person, and within a week I found that answer, and that
Of course.
and it just and you don't know how, but you know
That's
what?
like the person lifting up the car.
Well, yeah, not only that, but
Mhm.
I always believed if I paid a ticket to the movie, I'm going to see the end.
Yes.
And I did a lot of turnarounds and restructurings where there was a lot of companies
Right.
there and it needed to be fixed. And I always felt like I'm not going to be the last guy turning the lights off here. Right? I used to have creditor meetings and management meetings, and I tell everybody, here's the deal. If we want to save this, we're going to have to do this, this, and this. And it was so gratifying when a beautiful, smaller model came out of the gate and left this old battleship behind. Right? And that's what you see is knowing that anything could happen and you're not going to pull the plug on it. If it's going to happen, let someone take me out or something beat me for it. I'm not going to walk out of this contest.
Hmm.
And you know what I also found? Sometimes when you get really close, they'll give you another chance. It's like in baseball. They say run everything out. Some
And
people
you're right here. That's very often the time that we quit.
well,
Right. We
exactly.
were right
How many times
here.
have you gone to a meeting with somebody and they say, well, I got to make a phone call, I got to go to the restroom, and the speaker says exactly what that person should have been here to hear.
Right.
They decided that was the moment they're not going to be here.
Yeah.
But I think if you can believe in the comedy of life, in the humor in living,
Mhm.
right? The seriousness can go down. So, you can have a will to win, but I watch sports, but one thing I do have is a minute after it's over, I don't care anymore.
Mhm.
Right? Some people the next day you don't want to talk to them on Monday after a team lost on Sunday, or they think they lost, instead,
Yeah.
and that's what I look at.
I couldn't will to win.
Yeah, and have the responsibility and accountability to say, this is how I finished today. Do I want to run again or do I want to choose a new race? And that's your power. So,
Mhm.
Deb, I think it's good time for you to share your thoughts. We're coming towards the end of the hour. I think you did
Wow.
just a
I'm always
fabulous
surprised, Don.
job today.
Always.
I'm just thinking in my head about summertime in Wisconsin when the grass is green and everybody loves to mow their lawns, because typically most of our year is either it's too hot and we have just burnt grass or we have snow. So there's a lot of competition in the Midwest and Wisconsin when it comes to mowing the lawns. And many folks have the willpower to make their lawns pristine and mowed straight and, very nice lines, while others are the complete opposite. So in closing my little bit to speak here, just choose the willpower of whatever the goal is that you want to accomplish. And if you want straight lines, diagonal lines, or if it doesn't matter to you and you just want to get it done, just mow the lawn.
Well, Rita, what's your final thoughts for today?
Well, they're never my final thoughts. That's the thing. Now, when we close and we leave, then I always go back to the comments, and I'm always amazed at what people have to say and the sharing and the truth that comes out when we're together here. So I really don't have anything else to say. Later, I know that's going to be zipping around in my head. I woke up at 3 last night thinking about this. And so we're not really done with the conversation. Confidence, the word from yesterday, kept coming into here today. And what we do today is certainly going to keep going. So this is just the beginning. And I just want to say always to Donald that I'm so grateful anytime I get to see you and be with you and to meet Deb, another wonderful person. This is what life's all about, the networking that we do and the people. Because when we hit that point where we do need help, then that has to be that we will ourselves to allow others to come into our space and join with us from heart, head, and soul.
Well, that's so generous, and it's so wonderful that 3 people can come together, hardly know each other,
Right.
and then within seconds jump right in, as a trio, and address and interact with the people, because this only works if the 3 of us are part of everybody on the floor, not above everybody on the floor.
Right.
Right? And we're all in the same boat together. We all have concerns. We all have hopes and opportunities. We all have family and friends.
Right.
Why not make the most of what you have, of the day you have?
That's right.
Why let an uncertain tomorrow affect a certain now? And why not be happy whenever you can? Happiness doesn't have to be absolute. You could be struggling and still laugh once in a while.
Yeah.
You can still enjoy what you always enjoyed. I mean, I think too many people are stoics.
Well, laughter softens life's rough edges. That's the bottom line. So humor has to be in there.
Right.
Well, here's in finality, Roxanne says we're taught to have a plan B, but sometimes we use our plan B as an excuse to not push through on our plan A. Not having an option to make it is where will and willpower comes through, Roxanne. So true. And there's a saying: if plan B doesn't work, you still have 24 other letters.
Yeah.
Never give up on that.
I love that.
I want to thank everybody so much for being here today, especially Rita and Deb. I think it was just outstanding. Share it with others for their benefit, not for ours or yours. But the more people can share what we're doing and then model it, and I know so many people are going off and getting their shows, which is great because it just softens the market for everybody and opens up the message to people in this day and age who don't have access. And we can create access in real time and learn incrementally that it doesn't have to be major breakthroughs. Just maybe a question comes into your head for the first time, maybe something you were certain about. Now you're starting to question, why not?
That incremental progress, though, is what really works.
Well, yeah, because everybody can read one page a day at a time, and allow yourself to enjoy every incremental moment. So anyways, before we get off, thank you very much. Come back in 23 hours with Ellie and Brett, and we'll talk then. Thank you so much.